we got this system that we're both working on.
Mhm.
It's a web application, very nice looking web application, and the users can go in and look at their data, and they can make changes, and everybody's happy. And if they press submit or OK, then something happens, by matching somewhere else. But where does it all come from? Well, yes, there are two other systems that are constantly monitoring some web services and some other services. So actually, pulls the data in from other computers or other computer systems. So if you only look at the main program, you would sit and wonder, where does all the data come from?
Yeah, exactly.
Good afternoon, Johan.
Good afternoon. Is it that late?
Yes, 2:30, man.
Then I gotta pick up my kids from school soon, I guess. So we better hurry.
Working very hard with fun things today, so you lost the time.
Yeah, exactly. Too much fun work.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how it is.
Yes, I do.
So, I had vacation this summer.
Yes, lucky you.
Yeah. I know you're still looking forward to your, but I had not an epiphany, but an experience that kind of made me rethink the way we do things a little bit. And usually when we build systems, we start to set up things and make them work, and then after a while we realize that we need to take some notes, and we start to document things. And now when I got back from vacation, I realized how nice it is when you come back to a system that is documented, because then you can just look up, oh, well, what's the IP address of that server I'm supposed to look at, or what's the domain name I was looking for, because I couldn't really remember the domain name of this new system we're working on. I think I was missing an S in the end or something. So one place where I have the documentation would be nice, because now I had to look through my old emails to figure out what I was supposed to do, and then I had to search someplace else to figure out the login credentials, and then in order to start working on the system, I need to look at the ticket system, and there's a lot of things that would have been easier if I just had a documentation in one place. And we do have that in most of our system, but as we start building a system, I was thinking maybe we should try to have that as a policy to start document from the get-go, instead of documenting when you feel that this is something I should write down to remember next time.
Well, when you think this is something I should write down, there's a very good incitement. It makes you do it, but and the problem is that no, it's not a problem, but you tend to begin to write down when you need to write it down.
Yeah.
But of course, one of the things here is that for instance, when I'm working on a system and I need to write something down, I open a file in an editor of some sort, and I write it, and then I save it with whatever name, and then I forget the name of the file. But the good thing is, of course, that if it doesn't too long time it goes between when I edit this file to I use it again, I can always find it in recent files in my editor.
Yeah, as long as it's still there. Yeah.
As long as it's still there. Otherwise, you'll have to look for it. Of course, So one of the things is, and there's, I mean, we could do that. No excuse for not doing it, but to have some sort of wiki where you could actually put this documentation, and where it was always at hand.
We do have this really good documentation for one system that we've been working on, both of us, because I know that if I'm on vacation, you need to step in and do stuff, and there's it's so big so that you cannot really remember everything. You can't keep it in your head. There's too many steps and things that you need to kind of know in order to manage different parts of this system. So that there we really need a documentation like that. But in the smaller systems, even though I can easily look it up in my email to figure out the domain name or what server it was on or something like that, it's really nice to know that you have one place. And if you want to look at some of my systems, then we should have it in a common place, like in Google Docs or in some shared drive somewhere where we have these documents.
All of them.
All of them. Yeah, exactly.
All of them. Yeah.
And so today I'm just want to go through, because I've took and looked at some of our documentations and kind of collected a common template for how to document a system and what information should be in this documentation. And I want to go through it with you right now and see if you can come up with some additional things we should add to it, or something that I might need to change in the template to make it even more useful for everyone. And I also going to make this some kind of downloadable link somewhere, probably in the description below, where you as a viewer can download the document as well if you want to use it. So have a look there, and yeah, let's get into it. To start, the naming of the document and the placement is important. And usually you have like a customer with a name, and then you have the customer name, but sometimes the customer have multiple systems. So you might want to have multiple folders for each system. What is your take on that? Because you might want to add other things than just the documentation file. You might have other things you want to include in that system description that is not part of the document.
What would that be?
Well, perhaps a database diagram image, or
yeah.
Like the history of the release documents or something like that.
Actually, these files could be in the same repository as the source code. I mean, in GitHub, for instance.
That could be one way to do it, yeah.
Because that's a place where you go and look for everything else all the time.
Yeah.
And it's there, and if you get into the routine of committing your stuff, then every time you make a change to the documentation, you just routinely commit it and send it off to the server. And that would also answer the question of the folders. I mean, because then each project has its own folder.
Yeah, so we have some kind of documentation folder where we keep that kind of stuff.
Yes, and a README and all that things, you know. We don't do that, but perhaps we should.
Yeah. I'm a bit hesitant about if you have passwords in your documentation, username and passwords, we might want to store them somewhere else rather than just pushing them to Git.
Microsoft has some things. I'm not sure. It's a project I'm working on where they're using some common or some system that everybody shares a password, and it works that way as far as I know. That you set up users and you give them rights to view various passwords or systems.
Mm.
But I don't have any rights yet. I haven't needed any. So I haven't tried it out. But that could be one thing, because then you could give access to those who needed access to the keywords or passwords, and they would be in the same repository, whatever, or wherever.
Yeah, it might be something to look into for another video, I guess.
Yeah.
But then you want to look through the documentation here. So in the top, you have the name of the system, and then you have a responsible person. And the idea there is that you should have one person who is assigned to maintaining this document, even though multiple persons can maintain it.
Yeah.
There's one who is responsible for making sure that the information is up to date. And if you have any questions to any of the information in the document, that person should be the one you could ask. Then you have a system description. And there I'm thinking it's more like a general description. What does the system do? Who is the user of the system? Are there multi-parties who's using the system? And where does it integrate? So kind of an overview description, something that we more or less could post on our website describing what the system does. Development phases, I've put it right after here because this is kind of the order as we've progressed the documentation.
Aren't you assigning two functions to this document? One is a system documentation, and the other one is a log.
No, this is not considered a log.
I consider it a log.
How? So?
I don't think so. Well, you've got the client sent a request, and or we add a suggestion. So
no, this is the description of the development cycle. So how you interact.
But what do you want to write there? What do you want to write there? That is important for the system documentation here.
Where you store all the requests. Who is the contact person on the company that you're talking to when you're planning a ticket? What kind of estimations? Is it fixed price, or is it hourly based, or is there some other agreement in the approval? Yeah, there's not much, but there's not too much to write under these phases, but just to kind of document that these are the phases you're working in. And
so it's
some
it's
help.
Effect,
yeah,
it's in effect kind of the metadata about the project.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of, how do we usually do this? Who do we usually call them? How many, every time we estimate, how many hours do we put on top of the estimation? Things like that. Yeah. Maybe. And how quickly does the customer expect you to answer the whatever emails and stuff like that?
Yeah, things like that. And in the test, it could be like a description about where you find the test environment, where we upload things. If there are specific things you need to think about when you develop or make test cases, you might want to add it here. So kind of a overall quite simple description of the development cycle. And if there's some specific things that you do, otherwise it's not much information here. It's just one line or two lines for each of those, I think.
In a situation in which I am currently, where there's a new system, you start working on. I mean, it's not a new system because it's been out there for 20 years or more. Yeah, but I'm new.
You're new,
a new guy. Then that kind of information is good to have. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So you know who to contact, what is expected, and stuff like that. So if you
Yeah.
come new to the project, then you want to just read through this and see, okay, this is the way you work with this client in this project.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we do have different engagement with different clients. Most of them have all of these in one way or another, but in different kind of degree, I would say.
Mm-hmm. You know, the situation that we are in, you know, it's a wonderful situation because we are just developers.
Yeah.
And when we upload to GitHub, then by some magic, it somebody tests it, you know, one of our big questions, you know, was like, how does that happen? Are there anyone testing this? You know, where you're just uploading crap and sending it out to the customers, whatever is going on there, and I think, yeah, and of course, if somebody says me, yes, it's been tested, you know, I could choose to say, okay, then I don't care, but you know.
Yeah, of course, we test ourselves as well. So
yes,
it's part of the development.
Yes, but yeah, that's part of the development, that you test that it's not completely screwed up. But I mean, honestly, we are not the best testers.
No, we're not the ones supposed to be testing, but we should at least cover our ass, so to speak.
Yeah, and what we usually test is if it works.
Yeah.
You know, what we don't test is if it doesn't work, and that's probably more important when it comes to when it comes down to it. You know, what actually can go wrong here.
Yeah, those are a bit harder to find. So that's why you want to do elaborate testing and find aspects, as many aspects of the update as possible. So kind of a little reminder to do that. Then we have the system specifications, and that's where you describe the servers the system is hosted on. You might want to add kind of version numbers and stuff like that if that's relevant. And you also want to add IP addresses, and here we come to credentials. How do you log into these systems? Do you want to store that in the documentation, or do you want to have another place where you store the actual usernames and passwords, because they might need a little bit more secure handling. And also on each of these systems, what software is running here? Is it MS SQL? Is it MySQL? Is it the Dataflex runtime that's running on it, or is it something else? Are you hosting a mail server, or what cron jobs are running and stuff like that? So that's what you want to document here. And then also SSL certificates is part of that specification, because some servers need that, especially web servers. But you might have certificates if you integrate with a bank or something as well. Then you want to kind of place that under the specifications of the system. Is there something I'm missing here that you think I should include?
Yeah, well, one obvious thing is that, for instance, if you're using some kind of a development tool, that be Dataflex or whatever else, you know, you might want to add what version you're running with, you're using, and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
It's got to do with what technologies you actually use in the system. I mean, if you're using a .NET and that's all, then well, it's .NET whatever version. Or you could actually document it this way, because if you are using different technologies like Dataflex and JavaScript and active server pages and HTML and cascading style sheets or whatever, you know, Might be a good idea to write that down as well.
Yeah, but that comes under the next section, core features of the code. So that's where the description is, where the important data files are, or configuration files, where you have graphics, where you have where to start look if you are debugging the system.
But you see, I don't know if it covers it. I had a system. I had some changes to do on a program recently. There was some JavaScript to be changed, and at first, I was looking at it and I was saying, "Oh, I hate this notation here." I was looking, what the hell is this? And then it dawned on me, oh yes, this is jQuery. I know that.
Yeah.
So if you're using jQuery in your system, you should document that somewhere. It's not about the core functionality or core, what do you call it, core feature. This is just one of the things that you use in your code.
But I'm not sure if the title is correct, the core feature of the code. I would add using jQuery as information under the core feature of the code. And I will also here add if it's a PHP application or if it's Dataflix or pure Java or what JavaScript it might be. Because then I have kind of system files that are important to know about, release specific files, because you might have certain files that are relevant when you do a release. They are not relevant for the application as a whole, but when you do a release, these are the files that you want to use. That's also good to know. And then you also want to have the integrations. So which systems are this system integrating with? And you would like to document that. And we also, in the release specific files, I also have some steps in one of the documentations where we go through a list of steps because I haven't put them into code yet. So there are a few manual steps, and I write those down there as well in the release specification.
We got this system that we're both working on. It's a web application, very nice looking web application, and the users can go in and look at their data, and they can make changes, and everybody's happy. And if they press submit or OK, then something happens, by matching somewhere else. But where does it all come from? Well, yes, there are two other systems that are constantly monitoring some web services and some other services. So actually pulls the data in from other computers or other computer systems. So if you only look at the main program, you would sit and wonder, where does all the data come from?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why you want these integrations as well. So you know where to look for files. You might, because I've only written like finance system and the FTP, but you also want to know what script is actually reading this data, which folder is the data located. Are we copying the data down to a local disk, or is it read through a web service, for instance? So those things you want to document. And then I have a final category called remarks. And here I write down anything that I come across. For instance, if for some reason the email log seems to be filled up and I have this unique Linux command I have to run in order to clear the log, or if I'm supposed to check the disk size or something, or if there's a log script I need to check regularly, I want to put it here. Or as an example, if the email service stops working, that's always a fun one, because then there's usually a few steps. And as you said, if it's not me looking at it, the first step usually is the last one in the list.
Oh yes, but in remarks,
Yeah.
I'm just reading what you wrote here. If
Yeah.
a user is named admin, the system will close all accounts and delete all data in the user table.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's just okay. There beware, here be dragons. So you
Yeah.
explain what you shouldn't do. Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other one, yes, call you, and that's where everybody starts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, you can use it to remind yourself what to do.
Exactly. And that's what I usually do. I have these documents for a few systems that when I need to check something, I can go in and read it. But as you say, it might be a good idea to put it in Git.
I prefer the Git repository because that's where I'm looking.
Yeah.
That's a good place to look for anything regarding to a project.
Yeah, but then we should have duplicate copies. So we have one copy in the Git repository and one copy somewhere else, and make sure to make sure they are updated, both of them.
Yeah, but the Git repository would be the master of the documentation, a master copy of anything.
Yeah, and then in the other documentation, there should be a direct link to the documentation in the Git master for updated versions.
Yeah.
So that was the thing lacking there. Okay.
Yeah.
But then it should probably not be in Word. It should probably be styled in some regular text fashion. So
with Curia font.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I'm not sure that it matters whether you use Word doc or whatever you do. I think that GitHub is not that fussy about what you can put up there.
No. Yeah, it's not. It's just if you, for instance, want to compare a previous version with a later version, that you can in Git, then a text file, pure text, is more convenient.
Yeah,
but of course you could do it in an HTML format as well.
The good thing is that if you're working on a project that's on a Linux server, you can always maintain the documents with the VI editor.
Yeah. I've been using that one time too many, I think, but I know it by heart. I do prefer other editors today. Yeah,
but it's your fallback.
Yeah,
you don't have anything else.
Yeah. All right. But I think that does it with the documentation, system documentation.
Let's get started on it then.
Yeah. So now we're just going to have to make sure all our systems are up to date with the latest documentation standard in our company.
Fantastic. Yep.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
Thanks for now.
Thank you. And see you next week.
Yep.
Bye-bye.